often feel torn, like part of you is strong and driven, wanting to do and be so much more, but another part longs to soften, to trust, to open, and just flow, but that part of you doesn't feel supported or safe? If you've been feeling stuck between action and trust, between holding on and letting go, between fighting to stay safe and longing for gentleness, you're in the right place, because there is a real energetic threshold in the body between the solar plexus and the heart. And most people never fully surmount it. So in this video, I'll show you how to navigate this terrain between the solar plexus and the heart, its inherent lessons and challenges, and how you can finally pass through it with clarity and compassion and a higher power intact. Because we're all born with this interior gateway between the 3 lower energy centers and the heart. It asks you if control feels safer than surrender, and puts you in situations where it seems that if you didn't assert yourself, you might lose or disappear. And so the will digs its heels in, and the heart may become guarded and locked away. But now, something primordial and powerful is stirring in the field. It is inviting your power and will and sense of limitation to release into the divine and inextricable experience of compassion and love, to become a more powerful presence through deep understanding and forgiveness, beyond drive and will, into a deeper devotion to your own self and your own heart. This is the crossing place, the energetic, psycho-emotional, and spiritual gate, where the ego yields to your essential nature, where the personal merges with the eternal, where the doer becomes the one through whom all doing is done. It's time to open that passage, to breathe into that deep desire, and to watch the gate part before you, so you can finally take your seat in the heart. We're living in a time of deep and pervasive reorientation, a collective shift from force to flow, from command and conquer to coherence and communion, from identity rooted in what I can control, which yields to presence anchored in what I can create by opening to and allowing. Because for centuries we were taught to lead from the root and the sacral center and the solar plexus, to push and to strive and to prove and to defend, as if our lives depended upon it. Effort, willpower, protection, and self-definition reigned. And in a world shaped by survival, we needed that fire. But now, a new wave is gathering force and momentum is growing really fast. One that doesn't reject power, but redefines it. Not power over, but power with. Not dominance, but calm certainty. Not assertion, but alignment. And for that shift to root itself in our lived experience, we must locate and operate the lock, set, and key, which opens the gate between the solar plexus and the heart. Because while the solar plexus is the seat of individual identity, who you are, how you are, and what you stand for, the heart is the seat of our unique soul, what you deeply crave, where your passion lies, and how you open to and flow with divine inspiration. So let's begin with the solar plexus, where the very structure of yourself with a capital S is birthed through fire and fear, among many other elements and experiences. The solar plexus is the center of personal power, not the kind that conquers, but the kind that orients you in the direction of the horizon and the gate. Located in the upper abdomen, spanning the stomach, liver, kidneys, adrenals, pancreas, and spine, the solar plexus is a radiant web of nerves and organs and energetic circuitry that forms the seat of identity in the world. It is here that we ask, who am I when no one is looking? What do I stand for? And do I trust myself? This is the place of will, the furnace of courage, and the fire that fuels autonomy and self-definition. But it's also the place where many of us carry lots of fear and defense. Fear of being judged, of failing, of being too much or not enough. Fear of not being able to handle your life. When the solar plexus is constricted, we feel defensive, overachieving, or hypersensitive to criticism. Like we need to control everything to feel safe. Afraid to make decisions or obsessed with being right. Internally divided between what we want and what others expect of us. These patterns often begin in childhood, where our fire, enthusiasm, and self-expression was either shamed or exploited. Maybe your confidence was called arrogance or vanity. Maybe your boldness was too loud for someone's comfort. Maybe no one ever reinforced or encouraged your inner authority. So you grew unsure of your instincts and started deferring to others for your choices. Or maybe the opposite happened. You had to become the adult too soon. You had to figure it all out. And now your inner fire is always burning too hard, too hot, and too long. In both cases, the solar plexus is holding the weight of this. And over time, this energetic strain can become physical ailments with chronic digestive issues, irritable bowel syndrome or acid reflux, liver and gallbladder imbalances, blood sugar spikes and adrenal fatigue, mid-spine tension or pain, even systemic inflammation and autoimmune flare-ups. These are not just body issues. They are boundaries in crisis and power systems in heated debate. The body doesn't lie. It processes all of the energetic, psychological, and emotional places and experiences where your power has been shifted around or ignored. But here's the truth. Your solar plexus doesn't need domination. It needs discernment. It doesn't need to be in charge. It needs to feel safe to choose. It doesn't need to be extinguished. It needs to be honored and held. The solar plexus is like a sun. This center must learn how to soften without melting too much, and how to lead without domination, how to trust its fire enough to keep the embers glowing without burning out. And that's where the pathway to the heart begins. When the solar plexus roots itself in self-respect enough to lay down the armor of self-defense, it becomes capable of a balanced coherence, not just with your own truth, but with the larger field of collective universal truth we all share. Only then can the fire of identity flow freely and fully upward to meet the open and all-pervasive power of the frequency of love that resides in the heart. So now let's explore that threshold of trust and temple of union that is the heart. If the solar plexus is the seat of will, the heart is the seat of wisdom. The heart dwells beyond the realms of logic and instinct, in the sacred intelligence of unity and the knowing that pulls its awareness from beyond separation. Anatomically, this center governs the heart and the lungs, the thymus gland, the diaphragm, shoulders and upper back, the ribs and the breasts, where breath and life are cradled, the arms and the hands through which love is offered and received. Emotionally, it holds grief and gratitude, resentment and release, compassion, hope, betrayal, and grace. The push-pull between the contraction of self-protection and the sacred release and merging into connection. It is the place of paradox, where loneliness dissolves into unity consciousness through devotion, where loss gives way to deeper and more expanded understanding of love, and where boundaries take on a porous quality. And it is often, after trauma, one of the hardest places to live, because to fully open the heart means letting go of grasping to the illusion of control, risking the vulnerability and terror of feeling it all, releasing the idea that power comes from clear and rigid boundaries when it actually flows from profound and radical acceptance and an open and truthful presence. Because the heart doesn't ask for perfection, it asks for authentic presence. But for many of us, the heart got hurt and started to feel unsafe too soon. Maybe someone you loved couldn't love you back. Maybe you gave too much and were left depleted, so you learned to withhold. Maybe your tenderness was trampled by someone else's agenda or fear. Maybe grief froze you in time and you forgot how to feel safely. Over time, these wounds became patterns in the body: heart palpitations and arrhythmias, asthma and shallow breathing, breast and lung conditions, tight shoulders, clenched ribs, a diaphragm that wouldn't release, immune suppression, chronic fatigue, even autoimmune struggles. These aren't just biological, and actually there's no such thing as just biological. Everything is interconnected. They are signals of heart field constriction, an energetic tangle around emotion, protection, and connection. The invitation of the heart is to feel it all anyway, to let love, which encompasses and contains all feeling, to move, even if it's awkward, even if it's painful, even if it changes your realization and experience of everything. Because love is not soft or by any means powerless. It's sovereign and supreme. This doesn't mean being unguarded all the time. It means learning to choose to connect with a higher wisdom and a deeper understanding over contraction and collapsing back into a scared, limited, and overprotected response. It means learning to forgive without forgetting your worth, offering compassion without abandoning yourself, breathing through the ache without letting it define you. This is where the solar plexus and heart begin to merge, where personal power, I choose, meets divine union, I trust. And this is the gateway to embodying your higher self, not as a concept, but as a living, breathing frequency in your day-to-day lived experience. Because the heart is one of the most significant facilitators of evolution. And I'm going to say that again, because it's really important. The heart is one of the most significant facilitators of evolution. It is the organ of divine integration, the only place where the soul can fully inhabit the body. And it speaks to us through pulses and tears and tingles and longings and prayers. To love and take exquisite care of yourself is not vanity. It is the threshold to the divine. And to walk through that threshold, you must be willing to stay with yourself even when it's hard, even when it hurts, when you'd rather flee or fight or freeze. You must breathe again, soften again, and trust that love is power in its highest form. Now let's talk about the gateway between the solar plexus and the heart, between will and love, and the pathway through, because there is a threshold in the body, a wall that is not made of bone or flesh, but of energy and memory and fear and the perceived need of self-preservation and self-protection and the real need for self-evolution. It lives between the solar plexus and the heart. This is the inner gatekeeper. It holds every moment we chose control over connection. Every time we learned that love meant danger. Every scar of betrayal. Every story of not being safe to feel. In the evolution of the soul, this gateway must be passed through. The lower three centers, the root, the sacral, and the solar, are where we form our identities: family, tribe, survival, shame, guilt, control, power. They teach us how to exist in the world of form, but they cannot teach us how to transcend its resulting wounds. Only the heart can do that. To move fully into the heart is to shift from fear-based power to presence-based radiance, from identity by reaction to identity by truth, from obedience to expectation into allegiance to your own soul. But to get there, something must dissolve that wall, that dividing line and boundary, the one that says, I must always be in control, or if I soften, I'll be hurt, or my power comes from tension, not trust. It must be seen and understood and then surrendered. This is not the death of the self. It's the evolution of the true self, the one that no longer needs armor to feel safe. Crossing through this gateway awakens emotional maturity, the ability to feel everything without distortion, energetic integrity, acting from alignment, not reaction, heart-rooted power, which is strength anchored in compassion, and embodiment of a higher will, which lives in the fifth center, the throat, and we'll explore that in another video. But it allows you to become your own authority through inner congruence. You no longer need to prove your power because you become it. You no longer chase love because you radiate it. You no longer perform sovereignty because you embody it. This bridge between control and trust is not linear. It's lived, it's breathed, it's accrued over time in how you choose to meet yourself in each new moment. So as we evolve into a state of being fully embodied as our highest self, integration happens when will and love align. The soul moves through the heart frequency, but needs a stable identity from which to anchor itself. So to evolve into a higher form of power and emotional literacy means to move into the heart. So we must first return to the parts of us that never made it there through reparenting the inner self and reclaiming emotional safety, so we can safely make the crossing into the heart-led living. The wounded child, the protector part, the one who flinched when love hurt and learned to build walls to survive. These aren't just metaphors, they're living energies within your system. Internal family systems therapy calls them parts. Each part has its own voice and memory, a role, often trying to protect you the only way it knew how. So let's walk through this step by step. So first, you name what you feel without judgment. You start by noticing the emotion without needing to justify or fix it. So say aloud or write, I feel tight in my belly. I feel sadness in my chest. I feel anger, and my anger wants to act out, right? It wants to lash out. Then you simply say, and that's okay, all right? This is the beginning of emotional intelligence, being able to speak feelings and allow them to be acknowledged and felt without doing anything about it. before you try to explain or change them. And this is important because what's unfelt remains unresolved. What's welcomed begins to heal. So next, we're going to breathe and reconnect to the body, to the calm, clear, compassionate presence and awareness that can hold all the parts. So sit with one hand on your solar plexus and one hand on your heart, and inhale, I'm here now in the body. All parts of me are welcome. You can repeat this a few times, letting the breath be the permission slip to sit with the feeling and just feel the feeling. Then take a look in the mirror or lay hands upon your own body, gently speaking to the part of you that still holds fear and shame and anger and sadness or self-protection. And in the mirror or with one hand on your heart, you can say, I see you, protector, firefighter, wounded child. I know you tried to protect me, and I appreciate that, but you don't have to do it alone anymore. This activates a deep neural rewiring. It helps the nervous system feel companioned and no longer isolated. Then you can offer yourself compassion for what arises. So take a nice deep breath, imagining your higher self speaking to the wounded part, and say the following out loud. I'm so sorry you had to be so strong when everything felt off and wrong. I'm so sorry you felt unloved and unseen when you were just being you. I'm so sorry it didn't feel safe to trust. I'm so sorry you got hurt when you trusted. I'm so sorry you didn't learn how precious and powerful you truly are. And you can continue on in this way with whatever's arising for you. This is reparenting through self-compassion. You can also dialogue journal, which is an internal family systems technique. So you're writing from your highest self to the part and allow it to respond. So you can start with something like Dear Protector, or a Dear Little One, or a Dear 5-year-old Melissa. What do you want me to know? What do you want me to know? And allow the answers to come without forcing. This opens a conversation, and conversation creates integration. These daily practices are rituals of reunion. They are how you become the safe place your inner child never had. They are how you move from defended power into embodied love. Now let's cross over, because you've walked through the seasons of trying to hold everything together. The times you overperformed and said yes when you really meant no. The times when you pushed through even when your body begged you to rest. That was your solar plexus, burning hot with effort and survival. You did what you had to do. And now you're ready for something else. You might have felt the ache of wanting to trust again, but not knowing exactly how. This tension and upheaval many of us have been feeling is characteristic of being at the threshold between these two centers. And this is not just something that is being experienced by some of us, some of the time. It's happening all over the planet, in every country and every time zone, and its momentum is rising. We are all being asked to soften the old ways of being and paradigms of control, not to give up or become passive, but to allow a deeper intelligence to rise and lead, one that speaks in felt sense resonance, not rigid rules, one that leads with love, compassion, and acceptance, not competition. This is the passageway, and we are all walking it together, from personal power to soul-aligned presence. This crossing doesn't happen in one big leap. It happens in the small choices, the moment you breathe instead of react, when you feel hurt and still choose to stay open, when you tell the truth even if your voice shakes, when you touch your heart and say to yourself, I'm still here. And because you are here now watching this video, it means you've already begun the crossing. Every time you said yes to yourself instead of pleasing someone else, you took a step. Every time you softened your breath instead of tightening your grip, you opened the gate a little bit more. Every time you let yourself feel, even when it hurt, you took another step forward. That's what this journey is. It's not a single leap into the light. It's dozens of tiny moments where you choose presence over protection. You're ready to live from the place where power and love meet, where the fire of your will fuels your heart's devotion, where your choices are made from alignment, where strength is about connection. It's about coming home to you, who you have always been, before the fear, before the armor, before the world told you otherwise. So as you walk through the rest of your day, notice the small thresholds, the choice points, the moments where you get to choose again and choose differently, to breathe and to soften, to stay with yourself, to lead from the heart. This is the work, and it is sacred. Welcome home to your heart. May you feel safe enough to soften, strong enough to stay open, clear enough to trust your timing, and loved enough to let love flow you forward. You've earned this crossing, and everything changes from here. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time.